I am on Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. We were following some protesters that walked past our house because a group of almost 50 riot cops walked past our house behind them. They just fired pellets towards me and my friends who were doing nothing but holding phones. The people around us have nothing but signs and phones. There's almost 50 cops over there. They are firing pellets. Earlier there was that. They are firing at us. The people here are in their 20s, their teens.
All the people here are teenagers and in their 20s. They're young.
They are firing, that might be tear gas. The group of protesters, I took a video on my phone previously before I began this live stream. The group of protesters is no more than 30 people max. There are no kinds of weapons. This is where I mentioned that fireworks from residential areas is very normal for Worcester throughout the summer and completely unrelated to this situation. There was a peaceful protest organized earlier in the day that ended earlier in the day where the police claimed they were here on behalf of the protesters. I would reiterate that, and I will post the video later, that I have been standing and following this situation for about 15 minutes, and the protesters have done absolutely nothing to instigate a riot. They have not gone any closer than this gentleman here. We're a full business and parking lot away from the police. They have not been physically approached in any way.
Give them an idea of how few people are here right now.
There's most of the protesters dispersed about a block back. All of them went home. This is a main street. I mentioned earlier when I was recording that this is the path we would have to take to go home. This is the main street in Worcester on June 1st. The public bus system is not running this late at the moment, so all of these people, in order to go home, would have to be walking along this street. This is our normal public path, the main road. These riot cops have had the road blocked off for at least 30 minutes with police officers. We came outside because cars were having to turn down our residential street because the cops had blocked off. Oh, there's the pellets again. Sarah. Because the cops blocked off the main road. These protesters, until this had happened, were entirely on the sidewalk. When we walked outside, the protesters were on the sidewalk, not blocking traffic, not causing issues. Again, no weapons with the protesters, strictly phones and signs. The cops are dressed in full riot gear. They have guns in their hands. They have fired something at us at least twice, along with pellets on a separate instance. You see here that the protesters are again turning back and dispersing, possibly because they've been pinned in. There's police at the back, and that was the situation when we began as well. The police have been going behind them, shoving them towards the riot cops as they've been trying to keep a distance in order to avoid violence. For anyone who just began watching, I just want to reiterate that I am on Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. Main Street for a reason. This is the main road throughout the city. This is the path that, again, these protesters would have to take in order to walk home. I am outside because cars began being... Oh, that's pellets.
Firing again.
I began recording this live stream because cops fired pellets from that far away that nearly hit me and did hit Sarah.
Pellets too. People have experienced breathing problems.
I had no intention of heading out of the house today, to tell you the truth. I have concerns about COVID. I am out here because the police brought this to my home and to the main street, and because they started attacking protesters who were walking home. Can you hold this for a minute? My hands are shaky. Yeah. I want to get the cops in case something happens.
Oh, hell no. Oh, they're coming towards us. Now they're marching forward.
One protester threw something, and I would like to point out that there one more.
That car's circling around somewhere. He's trying to get out the way.
Sarah. Those two protesters.
Where is Sarah? But oh, there she is.
But not nearly far enough to get them or cause any damage. The goal is to get them to
Going into the dump.
not harm us. The cops have acted more aggressively than the protesters possibly could. The cops are in full riot gear, with guards, with wands, full freezers, and their guns. The protesters are unarmed.
The police
They're
are now moving
approaching.
towards us. They have been moving back the entire time. They are now moving towards the group.
The cops are continuing. Are firing more protesters!
They just fired gas at us again.
Sarah, come in here.
Ambulance.
They're firing again.
Sarah, down here.
More mace bullets are coming.
Your camera turned. I would reiterate one more time, we are on Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is the main road of the city. This is the road that these protesters were walking home on the sidewalks. I had to get out of my home because the police were blocking the main road and forcing cars to turn down my residential street.
Oh, that's right by us. Watch out. Sarah, step back.
Smoke bombs.
Come over here. Come over here.
These appear to be bombs. It seems like these.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
I can't breathe!
Are they still moving towards us?
That guy's going
They appear
forward.
to have stopped moving towards us.
They've been firing pellets and things. Stay back here.
Oh, you guys are here?
You keep filming.
Watch out for the mace bullets.
No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace!
I'm live streaming this because I'm afraid that should anything happen, the video footage would not get out there. Please tell me if you see anyone's face. I'm trying not to make it visible. And if anyone's face can be seen, I'm going to edit this video and take it down.
Someone get a hit!
Protesters letting the cars drive past completely peacefully. Can you tell those two
I think so.
You might be able to hear the police are definitely firing pellets at us, and there appears to be a small group of protesters around the corner near Duncan. Lindsay, we have to go. We are heading back. I will take the camera. We are backing down the street. I'm filming over my shoulder. I apologize for the poor camera quality. All the protesters are backing up.
Protesters are sitting off the river.
If you've ever been to a good 4th of July celebration, you know that fireworks going off over your head is perfectly fine. Whereas pellets being shot towards your face and your friends is not.
They're firing at us! That nigga picked it up!
I came from them.
Oh God.
I'm pretty sure that's them.
Okay, those are coming from the police. I believe they are sonic booms, but I'm not an expert. There was a peaceful protest in Worcester earlier today that remained peaceful. These protesters were walking home down this main road of the city. If this turns violent and it's moving that way, I can assure you it is 100% the fault of Worcester PD. I had no intention of heading out of my house tonight because, frankly, I'm pretty busy. But when groups like this start attacking people literally in my front yard, I don't have a lot of options. If you are in Worcester, if you got to attend the peaceful protest earlier, I encourage you to reflect on the mayor's statement and hold them accountable for what is happening now, because it does not reflect the promises that they made in that release. Those were from the police as well. Those smoke bombs seem to have tear gas or mace, something that was a problem. These protesters are very far away from the cops and never got even within one business length of them. Where are Jake and Amanda?
I think they went back.
Yeah, they were like, we gotta go. I'm here on Main Street, South Worcester.
Thanks, Marissa.
Outside of my apartment.
Who tells us to watch you?
It's hard to see whether the cops are moving forward or back right now with all the smoke that they sent. This is on Main Street in Worcester. Someone asked, so I'm going to go ahead and say again, this is Main Street in Worcester. It's one of the main roads. It is the road and the sidewalks that the protesters were initially walking home on, that the cops then blocked off entirely so people could not get home. Sarah is pointing out that most of these protesters that we're seeing are in their 20s, their teens. I will post the video later that I started with, but we started because the police were almost directly in front of our house. There are more than 50 police officers, and when we began, there wasn't even 30 protesters out front that the riot, fully dressed in riot gear, that the police were trapping and approaching and cornering with a cop car behind them, slowly pinning them in. Sorry, let's cross the street. To answer Kristen's question, the peaceful protest was today at 6. It ended sometime around 8. I was running an errand about 20 minutes ago, and when I got home, I was standing on the porch, unlocking the door when we heard shouting and saw police sirens, and I went to see what it was because the lights were coming from directly in front of my university, where no one...
At least 100 cops walking by our...
Those are fired from the police officers. Mom, Dad, I promise I will call you as soon as I get home.
Fuck the cops!
those are them firing pellets at us again. I don't know if you can tell how far away the protesters are, but they're not approaching the police officers, which are again dressed in full riot gear, and certainly not in any danger from these protesters that are again holding only signs, phones, raising their hands in the air. They seem to be firing, sometimes the things that go up in the air are firing some type of gas, either tear gas or mace. I'm not sure. It was definitely making us cough. They are also firing pellets. I don't have a lot of experience to tell you whether they're rubber or what, but they hurt when they hit you.
You can't fucking breathe when they get there.
For those who just joined, I am on Main Street in Worcester. I came outside because the police were blocking off the main road directly in front of my house. There's more than 50 police officers over there responding to what began as about 30 protesters who were walking home. They are firing pellets and some gas-filled objects at us. Sorry, yes, to clarify, I am in Worcester, Massachusetts at the moment.
He threw a water bottle to clarify.
No peace. So I apologize if you've been here, but I'm going to repeat again for everybody that's just joining me. This is Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is the main road of the city. When I came outside, there was a group of about 30 protesters that were trying to walk home on the sidewalks. I came outside because the Worcester PD in full riot gear, more than 50 police officers, was blocking off this main road, preventing the protesters from walking home, from going to get dinner. This is the main road. There's a Dunkin' Donuts there, there's Chinese food right there, my university is down the road, and it's lined with residential streets. And that's what we were doing, and this is what they started doing in response.
Come on, with the fucking cops. I'm trying to fuck shit up.
The cops are now approaching us. And shooting pellets again. I don't know if you can see in the road the pellets hitting the ground. I'd like to say again that if you're in Worcester, or if you got to attend the peaceful protest earlier this evening, I would encourage you to read and challenge the mayor's statement, because this does not reflect what statement was made. It does not reflect that the police were on the side of the community. I would also say that when I walked out, this was a peaceful situation. This was people walking home. This was people carrying their signs under their arms. And just police officers. When we first walked out of the house, we didn't know why they were there. We couldn't even see the protesters down the road. There wasn't enough of them to notice. They weren't gathered. The riot cops were just there to begin with. It does look like the protesters are dispersing again, probably because the police are moving towards us and have been firing more frequently. I'm recording over my shoulder and walking away.
The baby's in the car, baby.
Where's Sarah?
I don't know. There's too many people on the other side. It could be moving. They're not. There's some traffic coming through.
Which I would point out again that the protesters have consistently been letting traffic move through as it needs, mostly have not been in the street.
The protesters have been letting traffic move through.
The riot cops have completely blocked up the street. Again, that is why we came outside. They were forcing cars to turn down our residential road. When I first walked outside, it took us 5 minutes to even find where the protesters were down the road. We couldn't figure out why they were blocking off the road. They had a cop car behind the protesters, forcing them forward, whether or not they needed to go home down the various residential streets.
Earlier when we first came out, cops forcing the protesters forward, telling them to go home. One protester.
One of my roommates has let me know that another cop car has actually just turned onto my residential street, which is Norwood Street, and so we think that actually they are sending police cars to block down the residential off streets of this main road to pin people in so that they cannot walk home. Go, Sarah. I will follow. The protesters once again letting people pass through peacefully, only blocking the road when there is not traffic to be blocked.
What's this shit going on? There are people on the outside.
The air is clearer here. Less tear gas. Okay. I would like to go ahead and say on this live stream that I did witness one protester throwing bricks towards the police, exactly one, and I specifically noted that they were white, and I bring this up because there have been a lot of reports of basically young white people who get very excited to kind of go express some aggression, I suppose, and have been joining these valid and important protests and taking advantage of the situation to cause a problem. But I do just want to come out and say that I did witness that because I want to demonstrate that my eyes are open, I suppose. I will probably end this live stream shortly because I am nearly home and I'm going to call my parents. And I am very fortunate to be okay. And while there were pellets fired towards me and some things did hit me, the entire protest, of which I was near the front, was far enough back that it did not do any significant damage because, again, the protesters were never any kind of threat to the police officers.
And virtually no threat to businesses and people of Maine South. Someone just threw a chair at the top.
I think that is the same specific guy that threw a brick. Can we cross?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Probably better to cross through the traffic.
Yeah.
They're stopping for us.
Can we go? Okay, so I'm gonna stop at this corner and kind of recap real quick just because I'm almost home. So, for the final recap, this is Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. There was a peaceful protest earlier today at 6 p.m. When it ended around 8 or 9, people were walking home down this main road.
How much views you got? Oh, 34, that's it?
Sorry?
34? I had 2,000, bro.
People were walking home on this main road with these main sidewalks not blocking traffic, and an entire, I don't know what you call it, squadron of 50 or more police officers were entirely blocking off the main road. They were sending traffic down residential streets. as we followed the protesters, the police officers fired pellets, what I believe to be either tear gas or some smoke bombs with mace in them, and definitely fired something into the air. I don't know what it was. The police, or rather the protesters, were doing nothing violent, had signs, had phones, had their hands in the air, never got more than a business length and a half within the distance of the police. All the protesters have dispersed and are heading home now. Maybe towards the end, the protesters were almost the same as the police, but definitely from the beginning, the police officers outnumbered the protesters to a ridiculous amount. We were confused when we came outside, couldn't even see why the police officers might be there. Okay. I'm headed in, thank you.